Greetings and salutations one and all. Welcome to the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. It's real talk night. How you doing? Inviting you to call a friend, tell a friend. Friends of your friends, friends of your enemies, enemies of your friends, and your enemies, don't leave them out. Call everybody. Tell them, come on. Let's get on with the night shift. Real talk. Closing out the night shift week. Kicking it off with Ravi B.
Police come down by me with a warning.
It's called Police.
Say that one we never complaining. How the bass too loud on we system. So bring a drum and let we start the singing. If you know you don't have time for haters, show me your hand. Police come down by me with a warning. They say that one we never complaining. How the bass too loud on the system. So bring the drum and this is what we singing. Father bless that soul, that soul. Bless that soul, bless that soul, bless my neighbor. Police come down by me with a warning. They say that one we never complaining. How the bass too loud on the system. So bring the drum and this is what we singing. Father bless that soul, that soul. Bless that soul, bless that soul, bless my neighbor. Jump up for your 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 neighbor. Jump up with your neighbor. Nothing wrong if I have a little party, but this neighbor just get on like a pushy. No, we don't like that. Nothing wrong if I have a little party, but this neighbor just kept on like a pushy. Every time this neighbor had the hot bombs, they just call the police to shut me down. Police come down by me.
I wonder how many people have a neighbor like this one.
Say that one we never complaining. How the bass too loud on the system. So bring the drum and this is what we singing. Father bless that
Neighbor, take it easy, you know.
soul. Bless that soul, bless that soul, bless my neighbor. Jump up for your neighbor. Jump up for your neighbor. Jump up for your neighbor.
You have to say a prayer and ask the Father to bless that soul.
For your neighbor. Jump up for
Bless that neighbor. You know, many of us have a neighbor like that neighbor. But you know, you got to love your neighbor.
family. Oh, yes, we like that.
I want to say welcome to each and everyone officially.
In a village, we should.
Tonight shift to DJ Kevin Stew.
But like one of my neighbor don't like we. They always calling police to stop we party. Police come down by me with a warning.
I want to say big ups to each and everyone locked in.
We never
Those on the tune-in radio on the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew.
but this neighbor
Welcome.
pushy. Every time this neighbor had the hot bombs.
Big ups to those who are locked in on Facebook Live. How you doing?
Police come down.
Go ahead and share.
They say that one we never complaining. How the
Big ups to those on the Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com.
so bring the drum and this is what we singing. Father bless that soul, that soul. Bless that soul, bless that soul.
Big ups to those who are locked in on on NIE Radio out of New Jersey. Much love to you. Big ups to those on PEMGTV.com.
I want my neighbors to be happy. In a village we should live like family.
And of course, those locked in right here at the home of the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew, kevinstew.com. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to have you. Couldn't do it without you, and you have my word. I wouldn't even try. The sound of Ravi B in the background. A track called Police.
They always calling police to stop with party. Police come down by me.
Police come by me. With music playing at my house. I can pull a shaggy. It wasn't me.
On the system. So bring the drum and this is what we singing. Father bless that soul.
I want to say thank you to my segment sponsor,
Bless that soul, bless that soul, bless
Pulsey Media Group. When big in the moment is priceless, get them a call. 754-999-6020. Check them out online, paulcmg.com. For innovative streaming and recording solutions. They can do everything you see here on kevinstew.com and more. So you have a wedding, a funeral, a church service, a seminar. You want to stream live? Give them a call, ask them, hey, how can you hook me up with what Kevin Stew has on his website? They'll talk with you. Zone of Ravi B. It's called Police. Yeah, man. People having fun and police get called and thing, and people end up in problems and thing. Anyway, so what do? People call the police. They come to you, and you end up what? Where? Doing what? How? Why? How? Confessing to what? Alright, so tonight, that is the topic of our discussion. That is what we're talking about on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew tonight. Real talk. We're looking at confessions. Are they hurtful? Are they helpful? Which of it is it? And, you know, this whole confession thing, when did this actually start? Does anybody know why? Why do we have confessionals in some churches, and in some churches we don't? Why is it at all a good thing to confess? What are you confessing about or confessing for? So, of course, you know, I did a little bit of searching, and we're taking this from a few angles tonight. Numbers to call, numbers to text. First of all, 773-789-STEW, 773-789-7839. Let me drop it on the screen for those of you who are watching. For those of you who are listening, it's 773-789-7839. You can call, you can text, you can WhatsApp, you can Telegram, depending on where you are in the world. However, whichever of those work for you tonight, you can use those methods to contact me. Share your feedback, share your stories. Tell me your confession story. That because I think everybody has one of those stories where there's that big confession. Now, is it a good big confession? Is it a bad big confession? I don't know. But whatever that confession is, and I think everybody has a story about a confession. But let's get into this a little bit, because you know, when it comes to some of these topics, especially on a Wednesday, I tend to go at it from a psychological perspective. But let's keep it real. You know, let's also have those real stories in there. Now, according to psychology today, for far too long, you may have held on to something from your past that you've never told your partner. So now we're looking at secrets or confessions to partners. Perhaps in the early days of your relationships, you lied about a small indiscretion involving you and a co-worker while on a business trip, if anybody takes business trips. And you led your partner to believe that you and the co-worker kept everything on a professional level, while in reality, on one of those nights away, a dinner conversation took a romantic turn, and although you didn't officially cheat, the situation could easily have gone in that direction with just one more glass of wine. And this is interesting. I'm sorry, I do apologize. One of my affiliates reaching out to me. I do humbly apologize. Okay, so with one more glass of wine, things could have gone in a completely different direction. However, it didn't, and you didn't tell the story. You didn't say why. You didn't, nothing. Is that okay? I guess that's okay. That's cool. That's, whichever way you work it out. But you regard yourself as a reasonably honest person, and also one who values loyalty to your partner. Memories of that evening occasionally slip into your awareness, and to rid yourself of them requires a great deal of mental effort. If you're currently working from home and therefore with your partner on a non-stop basis, it's hard for you to distract yourself by turning your thoughts to something in the outside world. So then the question comes to mind, should you tell? Would confessing the truth serve to rid you of your guilt at the cost of causing a rift in an otherwise good relationship? Is it worth it? It's been gravy so far. So why stir the pot? According to Columbia University's Rachel McDonald and colleagues, there is indeed a mental cost involved with keeping secrets when revealing that secret would reflect negatively on your reputation. In the first two of a series of 3 studies, MacDonald and the rest, et al., established that when you're keeping a secret to protect your reputation, such as not wanting your friends to know who you voted for, your mind continuously wanders toward that secret even when you're not with those people. As you do so, you experience feelings of inauthenticity because you know your behavior doesn't match what you claim to be your beliefs, namely that you would agree with your friends. Now, to make this study method more concrete, the measure of authenticity asked the study participants to rate themselves on 2 questions. I am 100% fully and completely presenting the real me to them, and I am being 100% fully and completely authentic with them. Think now about yourself in those situations when you've covered up a secret or a lie. Do your own feelings of authenticity take a slight hit? So now you have to wonder, boy, am I aware of my authentic self? Bum, bum, bum. Things that make you go, So at the same time, you might regret having lied to your partner about the secret that you are holding so closely. To tap into such feelings, the Columbia University authors asked participants to rate the degree to which they regret the fact about themselves that they're hiding from others. Now, if it is true that hiding a secret that you believe would lead to harm in your reputation, then what about the harm it could do to your relationship? How much can feelings of regret invade your feelings about your relationship? In the third of the series of investigations involving close relationships, the authors tested an intervention in which they presented participants with a thought experiment in which they imagined that revealing all would help, not harm, the relationship. Specifically, participants read the following instructions. Quote, if your partner were to learn the secret, they might be surprised or even hurt, and even if it would be hard to work through the secret together, what would help in that process is their feelings toward and respect for you. Let me read that again. If your partner were to learn the secret, they might be surprised or even hurt. And even if it would be hard to work through the secret together, what would help in that process is their feelings toward and respect for you. Now, as you can see, the intervention prompt was designed to minimize the impact participants believed the confession would have on the way their partners thought about them. The 305 study participants averaged 35 years of age. 60% were female. And all were in a committed relationship. On the morning of the study, participants were asked to recall a secret that they were keeping from their partner about which they felt badly. Having done so, participants that estimated both how many times in the previous day they had thought about the secret when not with their partner, and how many times they had to conceal the secret when interacting with their partner. After providing this baseline information, participants in the experimental group read the intervention instructions, and those in the control group simply went on to complete the next set of measures. All were followed up in the evening and once again on the following day. At each time point, they indicated how often their mind wandered to the secret and how many times they had to keep it from their partner while together. Additionally, all participants completed a coping secrecy measure that tapped how many times they felt they could cope with the secret, how much control they felt they had over the situation, and how well they believed they were handling the secret. Again, think about how you would respond to these coping measures. Do you believe you're doing a good job or not in suppressing the truth from your partner? Do you think you'll be able to manage your feelings about the secret in the future? Perhaps you're worried that the secret will slip out if you're not careful. This low sense of coping efficacy can only cause further strain when you're together with your partner, as you struggle to keep your secret under wraps. So, what do? Coping efficacy indeed became an important factor in the study's findings. As in the previous studies with the investigation, the researchers were able to draw a pathway from repetition as a motivation for secrecy to greater mind wandering, which led ultimately to lower feelings of authenticity and a higher sense of regret. The intervention appeared to have the effect of helping participants feel more capable in coping with the secret. Indeed, as the authors note, a rigid tendency to conceal information about the self is associated with a host of harms. Given such behavior corresponds with other poor maladaptive coping strategies. So, it would appear then that the harm to a relationship comes not from concealing the secret itself, but from the internal pressure that worries about how to handle the secret can create. Now, when you're trying to protect your reputation by keeping the truth hidden, the secret is more likely to weigh upon your mind, lowering your own faith in yourself. Once you lift yourself out of the burden of protecting your reputation with the secret, you can move forward with greater confidence and less regret. The secret remains a secret, a fact about yourself you'd rather not reveal. So then it's cool to keep secrets from people that are close to you once you get it in your mind that you are better off doing it. Is that what we're to take from this? In summary, what they're saying in this article, according to Psychology Today, think about why you're keeping a secret from your partner. Is it because you want to seem loyal and honest, as in the example with the co-worker? Or because you fear the secret will damage your relationship? Focusing on your partner and not on yourself can allow you to make a decision based on what is truly going to be the best for the long-term fulfillment of you both. So, really and truly, there is no cut and dry answer to the question. Are you going to tell that secret because it is weighing heavily on you, or are you going to tell that secret because it is the right thing to do, or because you think it will enhance your relationship, or because it will be the end of your relationship? And that is looking at confessing on, I guess, on a one-on-one, more intimate level. I know I have one of those confession stories where it was a big deal. I had a secret, and it weighed so heavily on me that I physically was feeling the effects of it. Now, could I have changed my mindset, like they're saying? Could I lift myself off the burden of protecting my reputation with the secret? And in so doing, move forward with greater confidence and less regret? They didn't say no regret, though. They said less regret. So, for me, I don't know about anybody else. For me, it was necessary to come out with it. Now, this was at a time when I was doing therapy. And in talking with my therapist, I was given some scenarios about coming out with this confession. And they were all gloom and doom. Now, here came the question. With this imminent gloom and doom on the horizon, do you hold on to your secret, or do you tell the secret? Feel better physically and face whatever comes along the way. Because having the secret in the first place was a choice, was a decision. Well, it could have been a choice. It was a choice. And in doing so, now, later on, came the focus on the consequence, which is what we're talking about in this session, these counseling sessions. And this is one of the reasons why I tell people, if you've never been to a therapy session, schedule one. Find a therapist and schedule one. Because there are things that we have encountered in our lives that weigh heavily on us and can cause serious psychological harm. I remember in primary school, I was with some friends, and no lie, everybody was being inappropriate. And it just so happens that I was giggling along and laughing along, and the one time that I went along and said something inappropriate, it turned out to be this whole blackmailing scheme. And can I tell you, as a little boy, not getting a whole, and this was a time growing up in Jamaica, I would get lunch money for the week. So I'd have to make sure that I budgeted out my lunch money so that it lasted through the week. These boys who were once my friends, or who I considered to be my friends, they taxed me, they blackmailed me in the worst way. I ate minimally for lunch. And I wasn't getting a whole lot of money for lunch anyway. Let me tell you, when the whole thing came out, we all got in trouble. But surprisingly, looking back at it, surprisingly, they got in more trouble than I did. But it all went away after that moment. And it was never brought up again. It's like it was yesterday. It's gone. So how do we look at secrets? Is it good? Is it not so good? Is it something that works in our favor, doesn't work in our favor, works out better in the long run overall? Should whatever secrets that we have, should we just keep them and learn, teach ourselves, train ourselves to look on the positive, quote unquote, positive side? The fact that everything as it is right now is going just right. So let's not trouble it. Let's not interfere with it. Let's not rock the boat. But why not? Rock the boat. Because if you're struggling with keeping the secret a secret, maybe the secret shouldn't be a secret. I need to tell it. And if in telling it to some people, it's still bothering you because you're keeping it a secret from someone else, it is the someone else that you probably need to talk with. Because, in my opinion, if it is bothering you, you need to deal with it. Because it's only going to fester and get worse. That was my experience. I don't know about you. But there are some other sides to this whole confession thing. How does it work when you're looking at your mental health? How does it work when you're looking at criminal cases? Because you have criminal cases where an individual may be forced to confess to a crime that they didn't commit. I heard this one story. I was talking with an exoneree, actually. I was talking with today. And he mentioned the story of someone who was convicted, was on death row, and was only exonerated after 10 years by way of DNA evidence. Robert, what was his name? Robert, I lost it. I searched for him earlier today, and somehow I closed that tab. Robert Lee Miller Jr. is his name, out of Oklahoma. And this man was, I'll tell the story. It's break time. It's time to take a break. I'll tell the story when we come back, and we'll look at a little bit at confessions on as it relates to criminal cases. You know, we have right now happening in Bastrop, Texas, the Rodney Reed evidentiary hearing. Earlier this week, you heard me talk with one of the cousins of the victim, why Rodney Reed is in prison right now. Heather Campbell Stobbs, a cousin of Stacey Stites. And she was there in the courtroom and hearing new evidence coming forward, people coming forward now that didn't come forward 20 years ago, that are giving statements. They're confessing. And the question is asked, why wait so long? When we come back, we talk some more about confessing, and I tell the story about Robert Miller out of Oklahoma. Call your friends, tell your friends. It's a night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. Real Talk Wednesday. We're looking at confessions. Are they hurtful or are they helpful? Call your friends, call your enemies, call your friends of your friends, friends of your enemies, enemies of your friends. Call everybody. Tell them. Log on. Come to kevinstew.com. Jump into the stew pot. It's what others call a chat room, but because we're fancy over here, it's the stew pot. It's where we keep things interactive and bubbling. You don't have to sign up for anything. You can remain anonymous. Call, text, WhatsApp, Telegram, 773-789-STEW. That's 773-789-7839. All right. So, link up, connect up, be with us. We could be right back. Facebook Live, deuces to you. Catch y'all later. Use a link that is pinned in the comment section. Come on over, kevinstew.com. We'll be right back.
Pulsey Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulsey Media Group.
It takes an entire village to raise a child. Hello, I'm Paul Campbell, here to talk about Palace. Peace and Love Academic Scholarship. This non-profit group supports students facing serious obstacles from entering or continuing their studies, not because the grades are failing, but due to the lack of financial support.
Over the past 8 years, Palace has awarded 600 scholarships valued at approximately 50.3 million Jamaican dollars, or 415,000 US dollars.
Together, we must build a better future for our children. Please visit www.palace1.org and make your donation to brighten the future of a deserving child. Palace, preserving young minds for posterity.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school,
In math,
I learned that I'm ugly
I
and
learned
useless.
that I'm trash.
And in gym,
In biology,
I learned that I'm
I
pathetic
learned that I'm fat
and a
and
joke.
stupid.
In history,
Today in
I learned that
school,
I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick.
And in
And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell.
and in
In chemistry, I learned that no one
In
likes me.
biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid.
In English,
And in
I
math,
learned that I make people
I
sick.
learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today
The only thing I didn't learn today
The only thing I didn't learn
It's why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulseemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.
It's Christine representing for DJ Kevin. You see me, I say, I don't know the boss. You see me, I say, DJ Kevin's Chew and the night shift radio show. Yo, it thing at the thing, turn up the thing loud. Whoa, DJ Kevin's Chew at the heart of a champion. Never underestimate, just choose him. The silver line behind the dark clouds. DJ Kevin's Chew believing, and that's no doubt. Salute the night shift radio show, Christine. It's a heart to talk.
Speak the truth. Hey, hey. No one forever. I look and know the truth. Don't need no debate, no way. Why you hype up yourself? How you know say I lie you a tell the truth. No call for no argument, no way. So why you want defend yourself when you know say I lie you a tell? You tell lie till you confuse yourself. Run down money and you don't got no help. Put your heart where you can't reach it. You ready? I see people things. Tell me why you want if it have a ulterior motive and it's no secret. Me come here so fi speak it to everyone. Me come fi reveal it. No more, me now hold no secret. Tell us the truth. Don't need no defense, no way. Why you want defend yourself when you know say I lie you a tell the truth? No call for no argument, no way. So why you want hype up yourself when you know say I lie you a tell? Me did tell you, so every action I go bring up a reaction. Why you want to play the victim when you know how you do me wrong? You know it hurt me, 'cause you coulda killed me. Have you as a brother, so close to me, you shoulda never be. Tell me why you want to drain me energy. Why you want to see the enemy? As long as you have life, you are gonna live to see the best of me. Tell us the truth. Don't need no defense, no way. Why you want to defend yourself when you know say I lie you want to tell the truth? No call for no argument, no way. So why you want to hype up yourself when you know say I lie you want to tell?
Why you hype up yourself?
I lie you want
And you know, say I lie you a tell. The sound of Jadan.
to tell.
The track is called Truth.
Oh, oh, oh. The fire you
Welcome back to the broadcast.
don't say I lie you want to tell.
I want to say thank you to my segment sponsor, Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands. Thank you, Althea. Althea SU is a licensed massage therapist operating out of Broad County, North Miami-Dade, South Palm Beach counties. She comes to you, brings her table, her oils, and over 20 years of massage therapy experience. Give her a call, 954-655-9000, or email her at thealater@att.net. I'll tell you this, she's also a personal trainer. So you call her up for your massage therapy, you can talk to her about some personal training. Althea has only one request outside of paying her. Get off her table when she's done with her massage therapy and go sleep somewhere else. And I can tell you, every time I get a massage from her, I fall asleep. Yep, right there on the table. Just rolls me off. She folds up her table and goes about her business. Go ahead and call her. I'm telling you the truth though, you know, it's really the truth. Every time I get a massage from Althea, I fall asleep. So if you were with me before the break, if not, welcome to the broadcast. Glad you could join. I mentioned someone who went to prison for a while. His name is Robert Miller. And he served 10 years. Now, the story of the crime goes like this. September 3rd, 1986, an 83-year-old woman was found raped and murdered in her apartment in northwest Oklahoma City. 4 months later, in an apartment across the street, police discovered another woman, 90 years old, raped and murdered. And an investigation was launched, and a stain believed to be semen was collected by police from one crime scene. Blood, hair, and saliva samples were discovered at the other victim's home. Based on serology tests from both crime scenes, investigators believed the perpetrator was a secretor with type A blood. And further testing of the crime scene evidence revealed an allotype profile that was attributed to the perpetrator. An allotype is a genetic marker associated with the human immune system. The lab report indicated that the allotype resulted from the evidence occurred with more frequency in the African American population. No, with more frequency. It doesn't mean that it had to be, but with more frequency. The report went on to erroneously suggest that this meant there was a high likelihood that the perpetrator was African American. You with me so far, right? Cool. So, racial statistics about the distribution of certain genetic markers do not corroborate to a prediction of the likelihood of the perpetrator's race. Please keep that in mind. Based on this faulty assumption, police focused their search on African American men. Alright. Oklahoma City police officers canvassed the neighborhood and asked black men to provide blood samples. Miller, a local African-American man known to the police, was tested. The results showed that he was a type A secretor. Police brought him in for questioning and conducted a 12-hour interrogation, half of which was recorded by a hidden camera. According to a statement from the public defender, Miller began talking about dreams, visions, spells, and hair. He added that Robert was probably under the influence of marijuana cigarettes dipped in PCP at the time of the interview, as he was known to hang around a drug house as a street watcher. During the interview with police, Miller attempted to answer questions as if he were clairvoyant and could see how the crime took place through the killer's eyes. He believed he was helping police solve the crime by telling them pertinent details, and at no point realized that he could have implicated himself in the crime. Police eventually led him to what the state called an admission of guilt, even though a later examination of the tapes revealed many inconsistencies between Miller's statement and the actual circumstances of the crime. Now, we've heard of more popular stories of coerced confessions. Y'all might remember the Central Park 5, which I believe is one of the most popular of them all, where these young men were actually told to confess, and they were badgered, they were pretty much tortured into confessing. And in the case of Miller, where he said, I went on to say I didn't do it. And it turned out that someone else did. It wasn't him. But he spent 10 years in prison because he was questioned in such a way that led him to confess. So the question then is, why is it that some people may confess to crimes that they didn't commit? And in doing my searching, once again, I came across some information that really just off the bat makes sense. You have people wanting to impress someone. So take gangs, for example. You have a young gang member, and remember, people join gangs because they're looking for acceptance, right? So here you have a young gang member wanting to impress the leader of the gang. And there's a crime committed. This young gang member knows the details of the crime. Well, probably wasn't even there, but heard stories and knows the details of the crime. And now says, hey, this is what happened. I did it. Yeah, I'm a bad man. In order to, probably because it was a gang leader that committed the crime, in order to protect this leader and get favorability from this gang leader, they confess to committing this crime. So they're looking for acceptance. So this is one of those things that could lead to someone confessing to something they didn't do. And I guess that is one of the biggest ones. But here, according to sciencemag.org, the story is told of Hugh Burton at age 16 confessing to killing his mother. He was still in shock from discovering her body when New York City police began to interrogate him. After hours of being threatened and cajoled, he told police what they wanted to hear. He soon recanted, knowing he was innocent and hoping the justice system would clear him. First of all, when it comes to this justice system, you have to wonder what kind of system you're talking about and what kind of justice. Anyway, I digress. Burton was convicted of second-degree murder in 1991 and received a sentence of 15 years to life. After 20 years in prison, he was released on parole, but he never could shake the stigma of the conviction. Attorneys from several organizations worked for more than a decade to clear him. They produced facts that contradicted the confession and showed evidence of prosecutorial misconduct. Please pardon me. But the Bronx District Attorney's Office, Burton's confession outweighed, for the Bronx District Attorney's Office, Burton's confession outweighed all other evidence. After all, who would admit to a crime they did not commit? Finally, Burton's attorneys brought in Saul Cassin, a psychologist at John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York, who is one of the world's leading experts on interrogation. Hey Marlon, how you doing, bro? Big ups to the general manager logging in, jumping into the stew pot. Cassin says, I went in prepared to make a 15-minute presentation, but the attorneys started asking me some really good questions. Before you knew it, we had a discussion that lasted almost 2.5 hours. Cassin explains that false confessions are not rare. More than a quarter of the 365 people exonerated in recent decades by the non-profit Innocence Project had confessed to their alleged crime. Drawing on more than 30 years of research, Cassin told the legal team how standard interrogation techniques combine psychological pressures and escape hatches that can easily cause an innocent person to confess. He explained how young people are particularly vulnerable to confessing when stressed, tired, and traumatized, as Burton was. Those of you who have seen the documentary on the Central Park 5, you'd have seen footage where they were in an interrogation room for hours on end, not able to speak with their family members. They're very uncomfortable and really being pressured. So what do you end up having? Them ending up telling stories as it relates to what they're being fed. They're young people. Cassin's presentation helped open the prosecutor's eyes to the emerging science of interrogation and false confession. 6 months later, on January 24, Judge Stephen Barrett of the Bronx Supreme Court vacated Burton's 3-decade-old conviction, citing such work as the basis of his decision. Having Dr. Cassin come in and give a masterclass on the science of false confessions was a turning point, said Stephen Drizin, co-director of the Center on Wrongful Convictions at Northwestern University in Chicago, Illinois, who led the team that pursued Burton's exoneration. Now, although scores of people have been cleared of false confessions since DNA evidence entered U.S. courtrooms, the Burton case was the first time someone had been exonerated on the basis of scientific analysis of interrogation. As such, it marks the coming of age of research that is profoundly affecting the justice system. Confessions are being questioned as never before, not just by defense lawyers, but by lawmakers and some police departments, which are re-examining their approach to interrogation. Now, there are also overpowering influences. Confessions have always been the gold standard indicator of guilt, right? Even though some proved spectacularly misleading. For example, a man who admitted to a murder in 1890 narrowly escaped hanging when his supposed victim was found living in New Jersey. The first scientific red flag came from Hugo Munsterberg, a renowned Harvard University psychologist who in 1908 warned about untrue confessions under the spell of overpowering influences. But it took several shocking false confession cases in the late 1980s and the introduction of DNA evidence to the justice system for the extent of wrongful convictions to emerge, and with it, how often false confessions play a role. Now, there's a whole lot more to this as it relates to overwhelming influence. You also have some deception detection that is in there, and you have to understand the power of a confession. Because a poster in Cassin's office at Johns Jay College shows 28 faces of men, women, adolescents, white, black, Hispanic. Look at how many different types of people there are, all of humanity. And what they all have in common is that they all give false confessions. There's no one kind of person who can give a false confession. It can happen to anybody. You make the situation right, and people will confess to anything. You know, you torture someone enough, they will tell you whatever it is they want, that you want them to tell you. So, And the torture doesn't have to be tie down, towel over the face, Chinese water torture kind of, or drip water to the forehead, Chinese water torture, or waterboarding where you have that towel over the face and they're pouring water and it's giving you the sense of drowning. If you're not familiar with any of those methods of torture, don't say Kevin Stew taught you. But you get to go through, there are all these circumstances, and sometimes it doesn't have to go that far. It can simply be just someone who is versed enough to speak to you in a certain way that pressures you, that tortures you to believing whatever it is they're trying to get you to confess to. I don't know if that has ever happened to anyone that is listening in right now. 773-789-STEW, 773-789-7839. Have you ever been coerced to confess to something that you never did? Think about your childhood. Think about that unexplainable thing that happened. You were in the room, you saw it happen, but you didn't make it happen. There are some types of pottery, that clay pottery. It will happen with some clay pottery that when transporting them, the vibration could cause them to crack because of the type of pottery that it is. It's not the ones that got sealed and fired and sealed again and fired again. That it's reinforced that way. No, you're talking about the ones that it is made, it is painted, it is just heated just a little bit, and that clay is soft. It's hard, but it's soft. These types of pottery. So you could be transporting it and they have cracks on the inside. And you bring them into your home and they're just sitting there, and the days get hot, the evenings get cool, you turn off the AC, you turn on the AC, the temperatures fluctuate, things contract and expand in different temperatures. And boom, it breaks. Think of that child that is in the room when that break happens and you're not in the room to witness it. And that child is saying, I didn't do it. When you have 15 sets of plates and glasses that are mismatched in your kitchen as a result of this child breaking them. Yeah, that can lead to a false confession. Because when you are telling that child, listen, either you tell the truth or you get a spanking. And that child is saying, but I'm telling you the truth. And then you add to that, lying to me will make it worse. And they say it again, and you decide that you're going to go get the belt. Or in the case of old-time Jamaica or old-time Caribbean, you get sent to go pick your switch. Marlon, you remember those days, right? Go pick your switch. These are things that can actually influence a false confession. Now, you amplify that a few times and make it something criminal, and you get what we have happening today, where in our prisons you have a lot of people who confess to crimes they did not commit. Why? Because they went through this moment of pressure. And especially the ones that are closer to age 18. Because I guess something happens when you cross that 18-year-old threshold, that adolescent threshold. Young adults, adolescents, these are more susceptible to that type of pressure. And it happens over and over and over again. So you also have those that want to confess but are afraid because of the consequences. You heard me tell the story earlier in the first segment about my own confession, or a couple of my own confessions. Think of those that are coming forward now in trials. And I mentioned the Rodney Reed trial, evidentiary hearing that is happening right now in Bastrop, Texas. You have individuals that are coming forward that knew of things happening 20 years ago that said nothing. You have law enforcement officers, you have people that worked with the victim, you have people coming out of the woodwork you have people that were in prison with the victim's fiance at the time, who was a police officer, who was later convicted of rape, and while in prison talking about how he did it and someone else is paying for it. You have people coming forward and confessing no. And the biggest question is, so why wait? Why wait all this time? Why not come forward then? If it is the right thing to do and you know it's the right thing to do, why not? We all know what the right thing to do is with a lot of things, and we don't do it. With even some less important things, and we still don't do it. Less detrimental things, not something like this that is life and death. You know, it's whether or not we go to work one day, probably. You know, whether or not we go over the neighbor's house to spend half an hour. It can be something as trivial as that. And we don't do it. Various things will cause people to not step forward and do what is right, as in the case of confessions. Now, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we have to ask the question. We're going to answer this one. Does confessing secrets improve our mental health? And you heard me tell the story of one of my secrets affecting my physical health. Now, whether it was my mental affecting my physical, or my physical influencing my mental, I don't know. I just know I felt better afterwards. When we come back from the break, we're going to try to see if we can have that question answered. Does confessing, let me read it to you as it is. Does confessing secrets improve our mental health? 773-789-STEW gets you in touch. 773-789-7839. Call, text, WhatsApp, Telegram. Link me. Even email me at djkevinstew.com. Let's talk. Share with me. We'll be right back after these few messages. Well, I kind of have to put up the message first, right? That would help. All right, cool. So after these few messages, we'll be right back, and we talk some more before we get into musical therapy to close out this night of real talk on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. We'll be right back.
Okay, so 5 tacos of cheese and a large soda. That's $10,012. Please drive around.
Wait, 10,000 what?
It's obvious you're buzzed and driving.
I've only had a few. I'm fine.
Yeah, the food's $12, but getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Please drive around. Actually, just park and come in.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Matthew 28:19 says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations." With this in mind, and encouragement received during a South Florida media conference, The Church Links was birthed. The Church Links is an interdenominational worship service portal for churches, providing the tools to spread the word through technology in a cost-effective way. The church links: www.dahchurchlinx.com. Your links to worship and praise.
Come on, smile. Oh, honey, he's still not smiling.
Maybe he's not a smiler.
Yeah, maybe he's just not a happy baby.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Or maybe he's teething.
Maybe it's just a phase.
Maybe he has autism, and we can definitely do something to help.
Maybe is all you need to find out more about autism. No big, joyful smiles by 6 months is one early sign. Learn the others at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Yes. Akar Mantino, I'm making notes right now. You are locked in to DJ Kevin Stew on the night shift.
Oh Lord, anybody see my trial of grief alright? Why, Lord, I was badly beaten, found by loved ones, battered by an irate husband. Searching for a man that wasn't I. When we reach the court, we're gone inside. The hand of justice shall preside. Over this case, the trial shall begin. Your Honor, I was inside because mine I and I own business. Your Honor, it was a complete stranger causing these disturbances. He blames me touching my wife, which is a wicked and awful life. Me two hand them was occupied. My shirt in the left and my pants in my right. My hand them was occupied. My shirt in the left and my pants in my right. Dear Judge, can this court accept my story from my heart? Why, Judge, if by chance you don't believe this tale, ask him why she will not fail to agree I was a better man than he. Just in case she refused to answer, ask the maid downstairs, I got her, she'll only be glad to testify for me. I tell him, Your Honor, I was inside the closet, minding I and I own business. Your Honor, it was a complete stranger causing these disturbances. He claims that me touching my wife, which is a wicked and awful life. The two hand them was occupied. My shirt in the left and my pants in the right. My hand them was occupied. My shirt in the left and my pants in the right.
Islands. Specifically, I man do not understand what the man trying to say. Roots forward up.
Dear Corporal, as you lock me in this prison, pray for I. Please, Corporal, please don't leave me here to wonder why the court has made this blunder. Grab me for a crime that wasn't fair.
Welcome back to the broadcast. The sound of Mr. Pluto Shervington in the background. A track called Your Honor.
I was inside the closet.
Listen, before Shaggy came out with It Wasn't Me,
it was a complete stranger.
You had Pluto Shervington saying, listen, Your Honor, it wasn't me.
These disturbances, in claims of me touching my wife, which is a wicked and
I want to say thank you to my segment sponsor, Reggae Global Entertainment.
my shirt in the left and my pants in the right. My hand them was occupied.
Reggae Global Entertainment will act as your booking agents, take care of your tour management, handle your bookings, your trademark, business registration, legal service referrals, music production, marketing and promotion, and so much more. Give them a call, 954-804-8199. That's 954-804-8199. Or check them out online, reggaeglobalentertainment.com. Tell them DJ Kevin Stew sent you.
Corporal, when you going to send me dinner, send your mother or your sister. One more day of this I cannot bear.
But I don't know, say Pluto bright. Pluto tell the corporal, say listen, and yeah, send my food later on, you know. Ask your sister or another female in your family to bring it for me now. You might be cute, but you're not that cute to me. One of the funny things about Pluto's this song, I had spoken with him years ago and I asked him about his songs and he said, you know, they're pretty much true stories. Let me just leave that right there. So as we come back, looking at confessions, are they hurtful, are they helpful on this real talk during the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew? We asked the question, does confessing secrets improve our mental health? Now, according to scientificamerican.com, any type of open and truthful disclosure reduces stress and helps individuals come to terms with their behavior. It is not coincidental that some of the most powerful people or institutions in many cultures encourage people to confess their transgressions, being churches. And there is very strong evidence that writing about upsetting experiences and dark secrets can benefit your mental and physical well-being. Similar to religious confession, expressive writing encourages individuals to explore their deepest thoughts and feelings about upsetting experiences. For such emotional purges to work, people must be completely honest with themselves. I'll say that again. For such emotional purges to work, people must be completely honest with themselves. Across hundreds of studies, we are now beginning to appreciate just how expressive writing works. First, simply putting emotional turmoil into words changes how we think about it. Giving concrete form to secret experiences can help categorize them in new ways. For instance, when we translate emotional experiences into words and stories, we start to think about them in a simpler, less menacing context. There is no solid evidence to explain this phenomenon, but it most likely occurs because talking or writing about a disturbing event helps us to understand it better. And things we do not understand cause greater anxiety. Think about how people react to sharks. We don't understand sharks, and a lot of times we are misguided about them. That's a perfect example. What we don't know, we become anxious about, and we express that anxiety in forms of hate sometimes, as we see in race wars. But we won't go that route right now. Another possible explanation is that once we write about our upheavals, we tend to remunerate about them less. Remunate. That's okay. I'll leave it alone. Sorry, getting distracted. So we ruminate about them less, freeing us up to focus on other things. There have been tests that have shown that people become more socially engaged in the weeks immediately following expressive writing experiences. Dozens of studies have also shown that expressive writing is linked to less stress and improved sleep and cardiovascular function. We know that better sleep is associated with enhanced immune function and better general health, which correlate with better mental health also. Last night we talked about building immunity, and sleep was a big part of what is encouraged in building immunity. So here we're looking at it again, and we're looking at it as it addresses mental health. Expressive writing and religious confession are not where am I? Okay, so expressive writing and religious confession are not the end all and be all, but these forms of release can help us to get through difficult times. The beauty is that you do not have to be religious to benefit from confession, but being spiritual can actually help. I'm just adding that to it. The underlying mechanisms are available to anyone for the price of a pencil and paper. Just write them down. Write them down. And that is probably why when you go to therapy, one of the things that therapists may often encourage you to do is to journal. Because in journaling you're writing down these experiences. And that may be the thing to help you through that moment, through that experience that you're going through, that you need to tell all, but you don't have the words to do it. Write it out. Now, psychology today says when you do something wrong, there are two typical reactions that pull in opposite directions. One, you might want to hide what you've done. If nobody finds out, then it may feel like you didn't do it at all. On the other hand, you might just want to confess what you've done wrong. And that gets a problem out in the open and helps people to move forward. A middle ground between these possibilities is the partial confession. In a partial confession, you admit to what you did wrong, but don't admit to the full extent of it. The partial confession seems like a great compromise. You get the benefit of admitting what you've done, but you can make your transgression seem less extreme than it was. One of the things I say when it comes to transgressions is and I say this as it relates to a lot of our relationships. You're only as good as your last transgression. And if you think about it, you realize more and more that that is something we do on a regular as individuals. We remember that last thing that someone may have done to us to hurt us, or that last thing that someone may have done, not necessarily to us, but it hurt us. And that becomes that defining factor, that thing that says who that person is, when it's not necessarily the case. But I digress. A paper in the February 2014 issue of the Journal of Personal and Social Psychology by A.L. Peer, Alessandro Acquisti, and Charles Shalvey suggests that partial confessions may actually be worse than either a full confession or not confessing at all. Who would have thunk it? First, one study looked at whether people have a tendency to make partial confessions. Participants in an online study performed a variety of tasks. In one task, they went to another website that allowed people to flip a virtual coin and predict how the coin would come out. They were asked to flip the coin 10 times. Then they were told to report the number of guesses they got right. They got paid 10 cents for each correct guess. Although the participants didn't know it, their actual predictions and coin flips were monitored. So the experimenters knew whether a particular participant told the truth or cheated. Overall, about 35% of the participants over-reported the number of flips they predicted correctly. Almost nobody under-reported the number of correct guesses. So this is cheating and not bad memory. Later in the study, participants were given a chance to confess whether they cheated. They were told that they would be paid based on what they reported, even if they now admitted they had cheated. They were also told that there would be no negative consequences of admitting that they had cheated. Wouldn't that be lovely? Never, never having negative consequences to a confession. Only about 18% of the participants who cheated confessed. Of those who did confess, the ones who cheated were also the ones that were more likely to give partial confessions. That is, people who overreported by just a few guesses tended to give a full confession, while those who overreported a lot tended to give a partial confession. So, I guess one of your questions now would be, why would people give partial confessions? Cool. Fair enough question to ask. Another study gave participants a hypothetical solution like the one just described. They were told that they had overreported, and then they were asked to assume that they had confessed fully, had not confessed at all, or gave a partial confession. Each participant responded to only one of these possibilities. They rated whether they thought their story would be credible and how they would feel after giving the confession. Participants who were told to imagine they had given a full confession rated themselves as being most credible. Those told to imagine they had given no confession rated themselves as least credible. Those who imagined a partial confession came out in between. Seems logical. There was no difference between the groups in their prediction of how they would feel. Another study looked at how participants actually feel after confessing. They gave participants an opportunity to cheat, as in the study. And in this study, participants were asked to rate their mood at the end of the study. Unsurprisingly, participants who did not cheat at all had the lowest level of negative feeling at the end of the study. Participants who gave a partial confession actually had the highest level of negative feeling, greater than that of those who either cheated or did not confess, or those who cheated and gave a full confession. Can you imagine someone who gave a partial confession felt worse than someone who didn't confess at all and did cheat? Another study in the series asked people to imagine that they were hearing about people who might have cheated in a task, like the coin flipping task. Participants found out that the individual reported an unlikely event, and then later heard a confession that was likely to be a full confession, a partial confession, or no confession. This study found that participants found the full confession most credible, the absence of a confession least credible, and, of course, the partial in between. Putting this all together, it seems that partial confessions are not that valuable. They are somewhat more credible to others than not confessing at all, but the partial confession actually makes the confessor feel worse than no confession at all. One reason why partial confessions create negative feelings is that discrepancies among thoughts are often discomforting. The partial confession forces confessors to think both about what they did and about what they had said. Two problems. The partial confession actually focuses more attention on the thing people did wrong than no confession at all. So an interesting question for future research is whether confessions act like forgiveness. That's interesting. So is it a case of forgiving self? In an earlier blog entry, research suggesting that when people forgive others for a transgression, they are better able to forget the details of what happened to them than when they do not forgive. Perhaps a full confession also helps transgressors to forget the details of what they did wrong and to move on with their lives. That's a thought. And I never really thought about that, and I never really thought about comparing the two either. Forgiving someone, you often forget what they had actually done, some details of it. You may not forget the whole thing, which is probably where the forgive and forget thing comes from, which I never thought about that either until just now. So, forgiving someone, truly forgiving someone, that is, you forget details. So, if you can remember all the details and said you forgave, does that mean that you actually did forgive? Since you remember all the details? Now, I guess the study didn't actually say that it happens all the time. But if it happens some of the time, does that account for anything? And is that the same thing? Could it be the same when someone confesses? That they forget details of what it was that they actually did, why they have to confess? Is it a matter of that confession being a forgiveness of self? Which now leads to the question, how important is it to forgive yourself? Because throughout this whole thing of confessing, the aspect of being aware of self and true to self comes to play. Now, if in learning self, who you really are, you have to confess to doing certain things, then in my opinion, you should feel better afterwards. How do you feel after you make your confessions? If you've ever made one. And if not, confess to something today. Go ahead, start with something small. Because we all have something to confess for. We all do. Whether it is a little thing, a big thing, an in-between thing, whatever the thing, there's something that you need to confess. Or you can confess to. Start with that little thing. Take baby steps. Because there might be a big thing in your life that is causing real problems. You might be suffering from some conditions and don't know what is causing it. And doctors have been trying to help you to deal with and get over it for years. But you haven't been able to. And there are things that are going on, secrets that you're keeping. Go to a therapist. Go to a pastor. Talk to a complete stranger. Because that complete stranger might give you the dress rehearsal for your confession. Now, if the person that you're confessing to would drill you about it, and that is something that you can expect to happen, because as humans, that's what we do. We want to know the why. We want to know the when. We want to know the where. We want to know why, and another why. We want to know so many things when you're coming forward, and sometimes we don't realize what it takes for an individual to come forward to confess something. But I guess at the same time, it doesn't really matter to the person being confessed to. The only thing that matters to them at that point in time is them and how they're feeling about what they're hearing. And guess what? You can't really blame them. Because they're emotional creatures too, and they're experiencing something. You already dealt with a part of your experience, which is what led you to where you are now, where you're confessing. So that individual that is hearing your confession has to also process. You can't expect that when you're giving your confession, you expect them to be where you are right now. You went through your thing already, which is what brought you to where you are today. See the difference? So, confessions, hurtful or helpful? Both. They will hurt. They will hurt you, the person doing the confessing, and they will hurt whomever it is that you're confessing to. Are they helpful? Definitely. Both to you, who's doing the confessing, and to whom you're confessing. Now, if anybody else has something to say about it, feel free to say it. Because y'all know the number, 773-789-STEW. 773-789-7839. You know the email, djkevinstew@gmail.com. You know you can WhatsApp, Telegram, text, call, hit me up. You know, share with me. Because that's how we grow. Iron sharpen iron. So let's sharpen each other. Let's encourage each other as we go through this thing we call life.
No pain, no fire up in the sky will change my vision from my eyes. I won't go stumbling like the others who has gone before me, never.
This is where we do that little thing we call musical therapy.
Won't go changing like the weather just to please the devil.
And we kick it off
Will I sell my soul?
with the sound of Crescenti, track called Word and Honor.
Cause for what it's worth, I'm
I
home.
want to say thank you to McNeil Trucking for sponsoring this musical therapy today. With McNeil Trucking, you're in good hands. Give them a call, 954-406-9740. Find out what they can move for you today.
No pain, no fire up in the sky will change my vision from my eyes. I won't go stumbling like the others who has gone before me, never will I leave my pride. That's my shining armor. Won't go changing like the weather just to please the devil, never will I sell my soul. That's my word in honor. Cause for what it's worth, I'm holding. Much better than them, no. No giving to them. No. And through all the pain, keep fighting. The only way to win, no giving to them. No. Them say chances are you never hold out. Cause them know we know you like them set bad route. But no matter what you try this without doubt, whether you're in the deepest night or the light out, and the enemy get vamped out. And them bad like get hold out. The most time name you shout out, good over evil without doubt. I won't go stumbling like the others who has gone before me, never will I leave my pride. That's my shining armor. Won't go changing like the weather just to please the devil, never will I sell my soul. That's my word in honor. Cause for what it's worth, I'm holding. Much better than them, no. No giving to them. No. Yes, through all the pain, keep fighting. The only way to win, no giving to them. No. As if the wind beneath my wing should turn this all around, then let the test of time define who I am. No pain, no fire up in the sky, no, will change my vision from my eyes. And I'll be the same man, now and for always, I won't go stumbling like the others who has gone before me, never will I leave my pride. That's my shining armor. Won't go stumbling like the others just to please the devil, never will I sell my soul. That's my word in honor. Don't know how far the finish line is, how many miles until I see it.
This is Mark Anthony working out with Chris Malachi.
Counting my blessings just like I
The track is called Endure.
running them down, trying to score.
As we bound through in musical therapy.
In this life couldn't burn sharper than full of sea.
see it clearly, not drama. Can't stop the vision what me born for. Learning every day that my journey's harder. And I know if you feel the same, give praises to the Most High. For the race is not for the swift, but those who can endure. The battle is not for the strong, I'm telling you for sure. Keep your faith, yeah. I know that God is great, yeah. The race is not for the swift. The journey is another gift, yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Right time for setting like this and go be the now. Thinking of a master plan, we cannot do without. Kingston to Mobile, we'll find a better route. Then we'll fly up on a tour away the bucket list then out, yeah. Family and future for secure. Greatness in you, nobody not you quick enough for show. Yeah, sure, I flow through your bones. Run at your own pace and seek a better way. The race is not for the swift, but those who can endure. The battle is not for the strong, I'm telling you for sure. Keep your faith, yeah. I know that child is great, yeah. The race is not for the swift. The journey is another gift, yeah. The race is not for the swift, but those who can endure. The battle is not for the strong, I'm telling you for sure. So keep your faith, yeah. I know that child is great, yeah. The race is not for the swift. The journey is another gift. The race is not for the swift, but those who can endure. The battle is not for the strong, I'm telling you for sure. Keep your faith. I know that God is good. The race is not for the swift. The journey is another gift. Miss you, girl. You know it's true. I'm lost with
This guy here celebrated an Earth Day this week.
the more I think about you, the more I realize you were everything to me. You were the apple of my eyes.
He's known as the Pen.
And you gave me all the vibes. Wish you were here with me tonight. No one else
His name is Hopeton Lindo.
love you.
This track is called Lost Without Your Love. Blessed Earth Day at Hopeton.
Tap my back and I look out for you.
We're celebrating all week.
Wrong, so wrong. Baby, it's true. I'm lost without your loving. Never knew I could be lost without your love, girl. Baby, it's true. I'm lost without your loving. Never knew I would be lost without your love. When I think about the time that things were very tough, the time that you would lift me up, you always understand. When I think about the happiness we shared before, you should be here to give me more. I'll be a better man. When I think about the good times, the bad times, the glad times, the sad times, we always work it out. You would do anything and everything, you always there for me. How could I forget that, baby? Baby, it's true. I'm lost without your loving. Never knew I could be lost without your love, girl. Baby, it's true. I'm lost without your loving. Never knew I would be lost without your love. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I would be grateful, I would cherish you, baby. I'll make it good the second time around. This time I wouldn't let you down. You see, I was weak when I should be strong. Now I know my mistakes.
You know, Marlon, I'm just hearing who is providing supporting vocals in this track. The one and only, the Twiggerific one herself. You can't mistake that voice anywhere.
Never know I could be lost without your love, girl. Baby, it's true. I'm lost without your loving. Never knew I would be lost without your love.
Someone else that celebrated an Earth Day this week. The sultry one, Suzanne Sultry.
How much do I love you? Let me count the ways I'll stand by you.
The track is called Stand By You.
No matter what the circumstances, I'm gonna take my chances. I'll stand by you. I'm gonna stand by you. I'm gonna stand by you. Good or bad, happy or sad, I'm gonna stand by you. I'm giving you my word, I mean it. My heart is yours, believe me. I'll stand by you. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I wanna be the one to make your day. Take care of you, make sure you're okay. I'll stand by you. I'm gonna stand by you. I'm gonna stand by you.
And you know, when you're talking about standing by someone, through good or bad, happy or sad, these things, you know, when you talk about confessions, you have to know where you're gonna stand after you get some of these confessions, right? And talking about standing by and supporting each other. Y'all remember to catch Marlon every Monday and Wednesday, Reggae Global Radio, 7 p.m. Eastern. Real rockers.
Stand by you, baby. I'm gonna stand by you. I promise I'm gonna stand by you.
The thickest makeup can fancy dressed up.
For all the Hezites out there, this is Hezron. Track called Young Girl.
Your sweetest smile, those pretty eyes could not disguise the hurt you feel inside. Young girl, young girl, said I wanna see you crying in the rain. Young girl, young girl,
the sound of novelty. The track is called 2 Makes 1.
But now I know that it's the truth, that I don't ever want to lose this special feeling that I feel with you. And though I try to be a good girl and never reaching to do wrong, I don't know what I'd do to someone who tried to do you any harm. 'Cause there was no sun in my life, no ray of hope. When I saw you smiling so bright, you right there, we had to be together. Now that 2 makes 1, I never lose count again. Now that we are one, now that 2 makes 1, I never lose count again. Now that we are one, and every time I start to tell you about the other lovers I knew, you always tell me that it's just you who is a lover with a mind. And if I ever try to hide from, or even to deny some of all the lessons I have learned from, I know you'll always be the one. 'Cause when there is strain in my life, you lighten the load. When there is pain in your life, me you call to come and make it better. Now that 2 makes 1, I never lose count again. Now that we are one, now that 2 makes 1, I never lose count again. Now that we are
Whoa, whoa, well, yeah. Pretty baby, you're the biggest part of me.
This track is called The Biggest Part of Me.
And the world knows that this is true, yeah. If
Some of you should recognize his voice. It's the sound of Lee Kelly.
harmony, then this feeling of love can guide us through. Tell me, hoping for so long, wondering when this love we've talked about has ever been revealed. Time is passing on, I'm losing my patience because we're wasting too much time. Girl, you see, I bet you think you'd never be the only one for me. So let's not be no fool, knowing in my heart you rule. See, you're playing hard to get, you're trying to make me sweat. But this you gotta know, my love for you will grow, holding on to things, yeah, that don't incline. You think I've crossed the line, but when you check it out, you're the one who feels, girl, them thoughts in your mind that only you can find, that leads you to your doubt. There's a biggest part of me in everything I see, and the world knows that this is true, true, true. If only you and me live in perfect harmony, this feeling of love will guide us through. Whoa,
from the first time that I laid my eyes, you got me wondering, what a feeling so revealing. You got me thinking.
This is Benji Myers, the maestro himself.
You and me,
track called Hooked on You.
even through the stormy weather, you got me hooked on you. I don't know what I'm gonna do without your love. I mean it. You got me hooked on you. I don't know what I'm gonna do without you. Oh yes, I mean it. We now, and forever, we'll stay together, even through the fire. I hope you can see just what you mean to me. This is how our love should be. And I know that we've got places to go. So I know that our love can grow. I know that you know what I'm trying to say. So baby, I know you wanna end today. You got me hooked on you. I don't know what I'm gonna do without you. Oh yes, I mean it, baby. You've got me hooked on you. I don't know what I'm gonna do without you. Oh yes, I mean it. Ooh-wee. From the first time that I laid my eyes, you got me wondering what a feeling so revealing. You've got me thinking, how could this be? You and me, sharing our lives together, even through the stormy weather. Ooh, now, and I know that we've got places to go. So I know that our love can grow. I know that you know what I'm trying to say. So baby, I know you wanna end today. You got me hooked on you. I don't know what I'm gonna do without you. Oh yes, I mean it. You got me hooked on you. I don't know what I'm gonna do without you. Oh yes, I mean it.
I'm your brethren if you need a hand, and you can call on me. I'll be a shoulder to lean on.
This is Marcia J. Ball working out with the Rajanai. It's called Brethren Sistren.
And I will just put your trust in me, 'cause that's the way that it should be. With family.
This is the way it should be with family.
It's like you can't make up your mind, like you can't read between the lines, like your perception ain't that fine. Just listen, this is what I'm trying to say.
I'm here to clear up all your doubts, and I'll be here to catch you when you fall. And I will answer when you call. This is what I'm trying to say to you.
I'm your brethren if you need a hand, and you can call on me. I'll be a shoulder to lean on. Oh yes, I will. Yes, I will.
Call on me, and if I can, I will just put your trust in me, 'cause that's the way that it should be. With family, family.
In the midst of all this madness and confusion setting in, when your wits are not about you, then on me you can depend.
Just when you feel that life is over and you no longer have your friends, just remember what I told you. I will be with you until the end. 'Cause
I'm your brethren if you need a hand, and you can call on me. I'll be a shoulder to lean on. Oh yes, I will. Yes, I will.
call on me, and if I can, I will just put your trust in me, 'cause that's the way that it should be. With family, family.
4 minutes to the top of the hour. This is how we part company. Closing out this real talk night. The son of Glenn Washington saying, listen, go ahead and bring your love on in.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I know I've never been this way before. I can't believe I find myself wanting for
As we close out this night shift with DJ Kevin Stew week, I want to thank you each and everyone for locking in. Thanks to the affiliates, the Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com, NIE Radio, PEMGTV.com. Truly appreciate of each and every one of you. Those locked in on TuneIn Radio, the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. And of course those right here at the home of the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew, kevinstew.com.
It's too much pressure.
I do encourage you to look out for members of your community, and remember that your community is not just the development that you live in, but it spreads far and wide. So whether you walk, ride, or drive, take the bus, the plane, the boat, or the train, the people that you pass along the way, these are members of your community. Do something good for one of them today, because you never know who's going to do something good for you tomorrow. My name is DJ Kevin Stew, so I like to do it to you, for you, and with you every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday right here at kevinstew.com. The night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. Call your friends, tell your enemies, friends of your friends, friends of your enemies, and enemies of your friends. 10 p.m. Eastern. This is where we encourage you to have acceptance through enlightenment.
And every woman that I see got something new for me. There is no other to compare. You are my destiny. Take a look.
Alright, so as I bounce out, let me squeeze in a piece of this.
What you see.
This is Glenn Washington, and we have Empress Unique on the same rhythm.
Serve for you and me, but when we
just a little piece. Thanks again to McNeil Trucking for sponsoring the musical therapy segment. With McNeil Trucking, you're in good hands. Go ahead and give them a call, 954-406-9740. Tell them DJ Kevin Stew sent you.
change your mind. What we're gonna do.
Encouraging you all to be good. If you can't be good, go be good at it. Good morning, good afternoon, good day to you wherever you are in the world, from right here in South Florida. I bid you a good night.
What we're gonna do. When you're gonna
Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The night shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.